Have you ever sat through a presentation and days later you can still remember the main point? But then there are others that just, poof, vanish from your memory the second you walk out of the room. Well, today we're going to dive into how you can make sure your presentations are the ones that stick, the ones that actually persuade people and make things happen.
So let's just get real for a second. Why are so many presentations just kind of bad? I mean, we've all been there, right? You're trying so hard to pay attention, but your mind is drifting. Maybe you're checking your phone under the table. What is that secret ingredient that makes some presentations incredible and others, well, forgettable?
You know, it really just comes down to this one simple thing. Most presentations are great at informing, but they completely fail at persuading. And look, there's a huge difference between just dumping a bunch of facts on an audience and actually sparking something in them, making them think differently, feel something, or, get up and do something. That gap is where we need to focus.
And that brings us to, well, a very familiar place for most of us. A shared, kind of painful experience. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The presentation that we all dread.
Just picture it for a second. A slide just jam-packed with tiny text and a never-ending list of bullet points. The speaker, they're not even making eye contact. They're just reading the slide word for word. You're trying to figure out the main point, but it's just a confusing mess of data. You look around the room and everyone is either completely zoned out or not so secretly checking their email. Our mission today is to make sure that never, ever happens when you're the one at the front of the room.
So, how do we fix this? How do we build the exact opposite of that nightmare scenario? Well, it all starts with one thing: finding your North Star. That's your single guiding idea that's going to keep your whole presentation on track and, more importantly, keep your audience locked in.
Okay, so your North Star message is that one sentence, that one takeaway you want your audience to walk away with, even if they forget literally everything else you said. Think of it like the headline for your entire talk. So instead of saying something kind of vague like, here's an update on our Q3 marketing strategy, your North Star is sharp, it's specific. We will double our online sales this quarter by shifting our entire focus to video content. See the difference? One is just a topic, the other is a destination. It's powerful.
And hey, here's a neat little psychology trick to really make that North Star message stick. It turns out our brains are wired to remember two things best. The very first thing we hear, that's called the primacy effect, and the very last thing we hear, the recency effect. So what does that mean for you? It's simple. You state your North Star message right up front at the very beginning, and then you bring it back as your final powerful closing line. It's like this amazing 1-2 punch for your audience's memory. Now you've got this awesome North Star message. How many supporting points should you have? The answer, the magic number, is 3. Seriously. Not 2, not 4, and definitely not 5. Just 3. For whatever reason, it's just the perfect number for our brains to grab onto and remember. Any more than that, and you're just going to overwhelm people, and your main message gets lost in the noise.
So how do you make those 3 points totally unforgettable? Well, you've got to bring them to life. Don't just state a fact. Tell a quick story that shows it in action. Ditch the boring chart and use a really powerful image or a simple metaphor. I don't know, maybe you call your biggest competitor a sleeping giant. And hey, don't be afraid to throw in a moment of surprise, a shocking stat, a funny personal story. These are the little things that create those aha moments that people actually remember. All right, so we've got our core message, our North Star, and our 3 key points to back it up. Now it's time to shift gears. We need to stop thinking like we're writing a report and start thinking like a storyteller. It's all about weaving these elements into a story that actually hooks people.
I love this quote because it gets to the heart of it all. Before you can ever hope to win someone over with logic and data and all your brilliant facts, you have to connect with them on an emotional level first. You've got to engage their hearts. That's how you build trust. That's how you get them to lean in and actually be open to what you have to say.
And you know, the best way to take your audience on that emotional journey is with the classic 3-act story structure. First, you have the setup. Here's the world as it is. Here's the problem we're facing. Then you introduce the conflict. You build up the tension. You talk about the hurdles. The stakes get higher. And finally, the resolution. This is where your idea swoops in like the hero of the story, offering the solution, and you end with a super clear call to action. I mean, this formula has worked in movies forever for a reason. And trust me, it works just as well in a boardroom.
Okay, deep breath, we've got our message, we've got our story. Now it's time to roll up our sleeves and get practical. Let's talk about how to bring all this to life with amazing visuals and a delivery that just oozes confidence.
When it comes to your slides, your delivery, everything, your #1 job, above all else, is to create clarity. Every single thing on your slide, every word that comes out of your mouth, every gesture you make, it all has to serve one purpose: making your message ridiculously easy for your audience to get.
So, let's talk about what not to do, okay? No more giant walls of text. Seriously, no more boring bullet points that you just read off the screen. And please, for the love of all that is good, no more cheesy, generic stock photos. Instead, I want you to focus on one, and only one, idea per slide. Use a simple icon or a bold color to make it pop, and find real, authentic images that connect with people and make them feel something.
So you've built your amazing presentation? How many times should you actually practice it to really nail the delivery? Well, the magic number here seems to be about 8. Yep, 8 full-on practice runs. That's the point where you stop just memorizing your lines and you start to truly own your material. It's honestly the difference between a pretty good presentation and a truly great one.
Look, getting nervous before a big presentation is completely normal. In fact, it just means you care. But here's a little secret. Try to reframe that nervous energy as excitement. Channel it into your passion for the topic. To project confidence, stand up tall, shoulders back, and just try speaking about 20% louder than you normally would. Oh, and don't be afraid of the pause. A well-timed moment of silence can be incredibly powerful. It gives your audience a second to really digest what you just said.
And what about that part everyone dreads, the Q&A session? Don't worry, we've got a simple framework for that too. For any question you get, just remember: what, why, how. First, give a direct, clear answer to their question. That's the what. Then, explain why that answer matters, what the implications are. That's the why. And finally, briefly outline the next steps. That's the how. It's a super simple way to stay on point and sound like you absolutely know your stuff.
Because at the end of the day, all of these techniques, they're not really about just giving one good presentation. They're about something bigger. They're about building trust and credibility with your audience over time. It's about becoming that person they see as a trusted advisor, someone they look to for expert guidance long after you've left the stage.
So the next time you see a presentation pop up on your calendar, I want you to stop seeing it as just another task to check off your list. See it for what it really is: an opportunity. An opportunity to inspire someone, to persuade them to actually make a real difference. So the only question left is, what change are you going to inspire?